It's time to do your C41 film development again. And you've got your bin, you got to fill it up with water. Oh my goodness, it's a lot of water in that bin. Here we go, let's fill it up, fill it up. And that takes a lot of time. And now you have to somehow get that heavy thing out of the sink. Here we go, let's lift it up. All right, be careful, it's a little heavy. Whoops, oops, oops. Oh, go. Looks like we're going to spill a little. All right, let's get it on the counter. Oh, my goodness. What a lot of work that is. So now we're putting our sous vide in the tub, and it's heating up. Takes its sweet time to heat up. And now we got to check the temperature of the bottles with the thermometer, because the temperature of the water and the temperature of the bottles are always different. Got to make sure all the temperatures are what they should be. What a pain in the neck this is. And then you spend a lot of money on that developing thing that rolls around and around. There's gotta be a better way. Gotta. Hi, it's Anthony from Anthony's Expired Film. Today I'd like to talk to you about how I develop color negative film using Cinestill's CS41 Color Development Kit. Either the powder or the liquid forms both do the same thing. It's not the usual conventional way that you've seen in a lot of other YouTube videos where you have a big tub of water and you have a sous vide, which is like a little heater, and it takes a while to heat up the water, and you put your bottles in there and you got to heat that up and take the temperature. So it's a lot of steps. I did that one time and I said, there must be an easier way to do it than that. I spilled water all over the place. It took forever for the temperature to get up to 100 and I think you had to go up to 104. This way the bottles will be 102. It was crazy. So the way I develop C41, the way I heat up the chemicals is using the microwave oven. That's right, I said it, the microwave oven. It's kind of unconventional. A couple people looked at me kind of funny when I told them, but I'd like to show you how it's done. And for me, it is much, much easier to do it heating up your chemicals with the microwave oven than the traditional method with a tub of water and a sous vide. Now this microwave is a second microwave I have in the kitchen because I develop in the kitchen. The chemicals are heated slowly using 70% power on the microwave settings. So there's no vapors, there's no boiling, the chemicals don't spill and create a hazard, in the microwave. So it heats up very slowly, and I take it out every now and then and take its temperature, and usually within 2 or 3 cycles it gets up to the 102. I usually go to 103, which is the recommended temperature for C41 developing. So I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to develop a roll of Kodacolor 200 and that I shot. So my first step is to get out my 2 bottles. I have a bottle of Developer and the bottle of Bleach. This has already been pre-mixed using the Cinestill CS41 kit. It comes in either a liquid that you mix or a powder. I've used both. They're both fine. I always use distilled water to mix the Bleach and the Developer. And a couple other things I do, because the directions say you usually get about 20 rolls developed. I usually can get 25 rolls developed because I use distilled water. I pre-rinse the film to get all the dyes out. This way that keeps it from contaminating the Developer. After I develop, I rinse before I go to the Bleach step, which is not in the CineStill directions. I feel that keeps the Bleach from being contaminated by any Developer residual on the film. So all those things I do, I think, help extend the number of rolls. I've gotten up to roll 25, and they usually stop after that. Sometimes I even go to 26. But as long as you use distilled water, you pre-rinse the film, and then you rinse it after the development stage, I think, from my experience, you get about 25, 26 rolls out of the kit, which is pretty good. So let's join the intrepid photographer Tony in the kitchen, who's already rinsed his roll of Kodacolor 200. It's already in the tank. He brought it down to the kitchen. The way we rinse it is you put water, warm water from the tap in the tank, just plain water, and that is like a pre-soaking, pre-rinse. We usually let it sit for 2 minutes, then you pour it out, and then you're ready to develop. So let's join Tony, already in progress. Now I'm going to heat the developer in the microwave. All right, so we're going to come over here to my little microwave, open it up. Okay, put it in there. And I'm going to use my I do it little in increments. So I'll start with 40 seconds. So time cook, 40 seconds. And I'll go to power level 7. So it's only at 70% power. And start her up. Like I said, this will allow the developer to heat slowly and not boil, cause a lot of fumes, a lot of steam in the microwave, just slowly heating it up. And once it's done and I take it out of the micro, I'll bring it over to the counter and take its temperature and see where it is, and then I judge as I get closer to 103. I use 103 because by the time I pour it in and it sits there for 4 minutes, it'll go down a degree. So I do it in small increments so that I'll get the exact temperature I want. All right, here we go. I'll take it out of the microwave. All right, and let's get the temperature. The thermometer, that is. Okay, and we'll put it in. I usually give it a little stir, and I lay it down by the handle so it's nice and secure. And let's see where the temperature goes to. Right now it's on 89, 90. Okay. And usually once the temperature stops changing, I'm like, okay, that's where it is. And then I'll put it in the microwave for a few more seconds. All right, so we're at 93. All right, we'll just lay that down, put it back in the microwave. And now we'll do it for about 10 seconds. So time cook, 10 seconds. 10 seconds at full power. It's only for a short amount of time. And I'll keep doing that until I get to 103 degrees. So let's see how far this goes. All right. All right, let's bring it over here. Take its temperature again. I usually like to stir it around, make sure the temperature is even throughout. And let's see where we are. All right, we're getting in the upper 90s. All right, it's getting to 100 degrees. Getting to 101. Almost 101. Okay, so now I'm going to do it like for 5 seconds. 4 or 5 seconds should bring it to 102 or 103. So let's do that. All right, so time cook. And we'll just do 5 seconds. All right. All right, let's try it. Let's check its temperature again. It's getting to 100, 101. All right, we got the magic 102. If it goes up to 103, no harm, no foul. So it's 102.5, 0.6. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to drain the water that it was soaking in. Get the water, the pre-soaked water out. And I'm just going to pour the developer in. See how easy that was? It wasn't too hard. All right, and now I'll use my trusty timer to set it for 4 minutes because I'm on. What I do is I keep a log of all the rolls that I've developed in my batch of C41. I will set the timer. Alexa, set timer for 4 minutes.
4 minutes, starting now.
Okay. And I usually give it like 10 turns of the swizzle stick to start off. And then every 30 seconds, I give it 4 turns of the swizzle stick throughout the developing time. All right, we'll see you as soon as the development is done. All right, my timer just finished. So now we're going to, I usually like to give it a little stir at the very end. So now we're going to pour out the developer. So I pour it back into the measuring cup, because then I'll pour it back into the bottle. And now I'll rinse it in warm water, warm tap water. We'll let that go. So I'll rinse it well a few times, and then we'll proceed with the Blix, and I'll see you back when it's time to Blix. Okay, I've just rinsed my film from the developer step, and I leave it in the sink with the warm water while I'm going to heat up my Blix. So it's just sitting in warm water right now. And we're going to pour the Blix into the measuring cup. And again, I use 12 ounces of Blix because I'm only developing 1 roll. I mean, you can adjust it if you're using 2 rolls in the tank. I would usually do, or if you're doing a roll of 120, I'll do 20 ounces of developer and Blix. But with 1 roll, 12 ounces is plenty. All right, we're going to do the same thing. Let's bring it over to the microwave. The same steps. I'm going to start with 40 seconds, power level 7. And it's the same process. What I'll do is I'll do the first step of heating at the lower power level, take its temperature, and then using my judgment, I'll just use a little bit of time at full power, a few seconds each time, and take its temperature till it reaches 103. And remember, so you know the Blix is an 8-minute step, and it does have a wider range of temperatures for which it works. So if the temperature goes down like to even 100, it's fine. It's fine. You don't have to worry about maintaining 103 temperature in the Blix. I've done this procedure for about 2 years, and I've had really good success. You've seen if you go to my Instagram, you'll see a lot of my color film posts. It's all using this method. Okay, so let's take its temperature. Gotta turn the thermometer back on. Okay, and I usually give it a little stir. This distributes the heat evenly, so I know it's a good temperature. And the other thing, when you have that big bin of water, you've got to put the bottles in. The bottles are floating. I know there's probably a lot of you that have, your own procedures for that. But I just find this method is so much easier for me. All right, so where are we? We're at 93. So I'm going to take this out. I usually have paper towel under my measuring cup, so I don't have to worry. Because Blix does stain your counters. If you get a little Blix on the counter and it takes a minute or 2 to wipe up, you'll get a stain. But a little bleach cleaner will take it right out. All right, so I'm going to do 10 seconds. So like I said, this method is so much easier for me, and it's a little faster, I think, because you don't have to maintain that water, wait for the sous vide to heat everything up. It's just, for me, it's much better. And I'm hoping that if you give it a try, you'll like it too. All right, so let's see how this temperature. Where are we here? All right, so we're at getting in the 90s. 97, 98, 99. I find that Blix tends to heat up a little faster. So just, be careful, use smaller times. All right, so we're at 99. Right now. So I will give it maybe 8 seconds. As you do it, you'll kind of know how much time to use depending on the power of your microwave. So I'll do time cook. I'll do 8 seconds and see where we are. Now, sometimes if your temperature goes over, You'll either have to let it sit on the counter for a few minutes till the temperature goes down, or if you're doing one roll, I will pour in a little more of the room temperature Blix or developer, depending on what you're doing, and sometimes that brings down the temperature quickly. All right, let's see where we are now. I know that now I'm talking about going over the temperature. I hope I didn't jinx it. Let's see where we are. Right, 100, 101, 102. All right, we're getting to 103. All right, so we're a little bit of, it's 103. It should be okay. But what I'll do is I'll just pour a drop of the room temperature Blix in. And let's see if that'll bring down the temperature. If it gets to 103, so here we go. See, now it's at 102.8. See how it brings it down? Perfect. All right, so we're ready to pour it in the tank. So let me take the water. So I do a rinse step between developer and Blix, even though the instructions from CineStill don't have that in there, but I like to do that. All right, so now we're going to pour in the Blix. And my rinsed swizzle stick, we'll put it back in. Alexa, set timer for 8 minutes.
Good afternoon, Anthony.
I think Amazon's having a problem today, so I may have to use my phone. Yeah.
8 minutes, starting now.
Ah, there we go. Okay. All right, so I'll do usually 10 turns of the swizzle stick right off the bat. And then every 30 seconds, I'll give it 4 little turns of the swizzle stick, and it'll go through the whole 8-minute process. All right, so I'll see you back here in 8 minutes. Okay, our 8-minute timer is done, and it's time to pour out the Blix and then rinse the film. So let's pour this out. See if I can do it without spilling it all over. Okay, so you pour it back into the measuring cup so you can use it again. And I'll rinse it with warm water for a couple of minutes. All right. This is how I rinse it. I usually get it 90% full, swish it around, pour it out, and repeat with warm tap water. So I'll do that a few times, and then when I'm done, I'll come back and we'll take the film out, and you can see, we'll both see how it looks. Okay, I've rinsed this about 5 or 6 times after the Blix. So let's open it up and see how we did. All right, hold on, let me get this. Yeah. All right, we're getting there, we're getting there. Okay, there we go. All right, let's see how we did with our Kodacolor 200. Let me get the end out of here. All right, here we go. All right, looks like we've got frames. We've got images. All right, I think we would say this is a success. Okay. Here's a couple of things that I'd like to either mention again from the development time that you saw. One of the things, if you're worried about the temperature variances, Development time starts at 3.5 minutes, and then every 5 or 6 rolls, you up it a little bit in time. The way I do it is every 6 rolls. So I go from 3.5 minutes, then I go to 3 minutes 45 seconds after 6 rolls. Then after another 6 rolls, I do 4 minutes, then another 6 rolls, 4 minutes and 15 seconds. That's how I do it. So this way, because as the developer gets exhausted, you have to increase your time for development. The other thing I like to do is to keep a written log. I know it's very old-fashioned, but on a nice pad of paper, I number each roll of film that I do. This way I know exactly how many I've done in that with that batch of C41 chemicals that I've mixed. I usually put like the number of the roll, the film I developed, and then the time I use. This way I can see how many rolls of film I've done at 3.5 minutes, then 3 minutes and 45 seconds, etc. So those are the two things I wanted to mention again. Regarding the temperature, like I said, the times of development are not that long. So if you heated your developer to 103 Fahrenheit, by the time it gets through 3.5 minutes, 3 3/4 minutes, 4 minutes, the temperature may go down 1 or 2 or 3 degrees. I haven't seen any detriment in the quality of the results by that kind of temperature decrease. And also on Blix, since it's 8 minutes, you'll notice in the directions for Blix in the CS41 kit that it has a much broader range of temperatures that it works within that 8 minutes. So if you started at 103 and that 8 minutes goes by, it can go down to 102, 101, and 100, and it still works just fine. So I haven't had any problems with that. So those are a couple of things that I thought of that you may have questions with. But it's a much easier and a much faster way to develop the film because you're directly heating the chemicals you're using right in a plastic measuring cup. And once it's at the temperature, you're on your way. You pour it into the tank and you start your development process. I don't do the tumbling and all that. I just use the swizzle stick to agitate. It's very easy. There's no danger of spilling. You know, when you're going back and forth, there's no danger of spilling the chemicals onto the counter. And I've done this for almost 200 rolls. I've used this method, and it's been pretty good so far. And I do use expired film, so I don't know whether it's the film that may give me the graininess or if it's my method. But I've also developed a lot of fresh film using this method, and the results are great. You can check out my Instagram account. You'll see the color posts that I've done. They're really pretty good. I think they're pretty good. So check them out. And I hope you use the method. It's much easier, and I think you'll love it. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you learned a lot on the way I develop color negative film. And that's all for Anthony's expired film for today. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.